942 Odo of Cluny, 2nd Abbot of Cluny 924-42, saint and monastic reformer, dies. In 1154 Adélaide de Maurienne, wife of Louis VI of France b. 1092. In 1170 Albert I the Bear, 1st Margrave of Brandenburg 1150-70, dies at 70. In 1305 John Roman II, Duke of Brittany b. 1239. In 1559 Cuthbert Tunstall, English churchman b. 1474. In 1590 George Talbot, 6th Earl of Shrewsbury, English statesman b. 1528. In 1603 Elizabeth van Nassau, daughter of William Count of Nassau-Dillenburg and Julie Anna van Stolberg, dies at 61. In 1630 Essiers van der Velde, Dutch painter, buried. In 1678 Giovanni Maria Bononcini, Italian violinist, composer, and theorist musico-pratico, dies at 36. In 1724 Bartolomeu de Gusmão, Portuguese naturalist b. 1685. In 1771 Giuseppe Giamargio, Italian composer and organist, dies at 73. In 1785 Louis-Philippe I, Duke of Orléans, French soldier and writer b. 1725. In 1797 Jacques-Alexandre Lafon der Laidbat, French shipbuilder and merchant of the port of Bordeaux, dies at 78. In 1814 Alejandro Dinho the cripple Antonio Francisco Lisboa, Brazilian architect and sculptor S.O. Francisco de Assis, dies at 76. In 1814 William Jessup, British civil engineer b. 1745. In 1822 Anton Taber, Austrian composer, dies at 66. In 1827 Wilhelm Hoff, German writer, dies at 24. In 1841 Georg Christoph Grossheim, German composer, dies at 77. In 1851 Ernst August, Duke of Kampel and King of Hanover 1837-51, dies at 80. In 1852 Anton Bernhard Fürstenau, German composer and flutist, dies at 60. In 1854 Edward Forbes, English naturalist and pioneer in the field of biogeography, dies of an illness at 39. In 1883 Wilhelm Siemens, German-British physicist and inventor open hearth furnace, dies at 60. In 1887 Eduard Markson, German pianist and composer, dies at 81. In 1887 Gustav Fechner, German psychologist and physicist Weber Fechner Law, dies at 86. In 1887 Heinrich Panofker, German violinist and composer, dies at 80. In 1889 William Allingham, Irish poet day-night songs, dies at 68. In 1904 Justus van Morik, Dutch author and cigar manufacturer, dies at 58. In 1909 René Vivian, British-born poet, wrote in French, dies at 32. In 1917 Henry Speakman, Dutch journalist and politician co-founder Social Democratic Workers' Party, dies of leukemia at 43. In 1918 Reggie Schwartz, English cricket spin bowler 20 Tests South Africa, 55 wickets, BB 647 and rugby union fly half 3 Test England, dies from Spanish flu at 43. In 1919 Adolf Howitz, German mathematician Riemann Howitz formulae, dies at 60. In 1919 Ferdinand Daimler Nieuwenhuis, Dutch socialist politician, first socialist member of parliament, dies at 72. In 1922 Marcel Proust, French intellectual and author of Church du Temps Perdu, dies at 51. In 1929 Henricus van der Wettering, Archbishop of Utrecht 1895-1929, dies at 78. In 1941 Chris Watson, 3rd Prime Minister of Australia Labour Party, dies at 74. 1941 Niall Nelligan, Canadian poet who wrote in French, dies inside a mental hospital at 61. In 1941 Walther Hermann Nernst, Prussian physicist and chemist, Nobel Prize, 1920, dies at 77. In 1946 Donald Meek, Scottish-American stage and screen actor, You Can Take It With You, stagecoach, dies of leukemia at 68. In 1946, John King, cricketer, scored 64 in only Test NBO's 1909, dies. In 1946, Johnny Lush, American MLB baseball pitcher, 1904-10 Philadelphia Phillies, St. Louis Cardinals, 2 no-hitters, 1 official, 1 rain shortened, dies at 61. In 1950, Gerardus van der Leyen, Dutch Minister of Education, dies at 60. In 1951, Johan van Masseveen, Dutch Minister of Justice and Internal Minister, dies at 57. In 1951, Václav Kalek, Czech composer, dies at 60. In 1951, Will Vaudrey, African-American theatre and film arranger, orchestrator, Showboat, Ziegfeld S. Follies, Blackbirds, and composer From Dixie to Broadway, dies at 66. In 1952, Paul Luard, French communist and poet, dies at 56. In 1953, Ruth Crawford Seeker, American modernist classical and folk music composer, string quartet, 1931, Rossolti, dies at 52. In 1958, Sivert Samuelson, cricketer, won Test South Africa v England 1910, dies. In 1959, Alexander Yakovlevich Kinchin, Russian mathematician, dies at 65. In 1959, Arthur Q. Bryan, American voice actor, comedian and radio personality, Bueller, the Devil Bat, dies from a heart attack at 60. In 1961, Clarence Bud Pinkston, American diver, Olympic gold 10m platform, silver 3n springboard 1920, dies at 61. In 1962, Luc Kieserts, Flemish art critic, Flander, dies at 63. In 1965, Henry A. Wallace, American editor and politician, 33rd U.S. Vice President 1941-45, founded Progressive Party, dies at 77. In 1966, Béla Tardos, Hungarian composer, a Bekenapter a Lat Under the Sun of Peace, dies at 56. In 1968, Walter Wanscher Feuchtwanger, American film producer, Cleopatra, dies at 74. American businessman, diplomat, and father of JFK, RFK, and Teddy, dies at 81. In 1969, Ellen Johnson, Belgian organist, composer, and academic, dies at 85. In 1969, Ted Heath, British jazz trombonist, composer, and big band leader, dies at 67. In 1970, Hal Dickinson, American singer, modernaires, dies at 56. 1971, Herman Jr. Parker, American blues and soul singer and musician, Mystery Train, dies during brain tumor surgery at 39. In 1972, Danny Whitten, American rock guitarist and songwriter, Crazy Horse, Rod Stewart, I don't want to talk about it, dies of a methaqualone overdose at 29. In 1972, Segundo Luis Moreno Andrade, Ecuadorian composer and musicologist, dies at 90. In 1976, Man Ray, American artist Darder, dies at 86. 1977, Theodora Teddy King, American pop standards and jazz vocalist, dies from complications of lupus at 48. In 1977, David O'Brien, American college